Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tungsten Tales. We're at the Unicorn Showroom in Nottingham, and we've been joined by John Lowe. John, 1984, MFI World Match Play, first ever televised 9-darter. 30 years, but it changed your life, I would imagine.
It changed my life that day, and it possibly changed my life for a long time after, right up to 30 years.
Yeah.
Mainly because what happened that day made me, I suppose, financially secure.
Yeah. About that day, I mean, any inclination when you woke up? Obviously, it was quarter-final against Keith. Keith Deller was playing well at the time, wasn't he? Or was it just, another game of darts in what happened?
No, it wasn't. I woke up that morning thinking, quarter-final, Keith Deller, what do I do today? I thought, well, don't leave all your best darts on the practice board. Too many people do that, leave all your 180s in the practice room. So I made a purpose effort to get up early, have breakfast, and to make sure I'm okay through the day. Got to the venue an hour before I was on. Yeah. Had a few words with a friend of mine, and then went to the practice room to start.
Yeah. So at that time, of course, when we're looking at it, obviously, big hitters around. We had obviously yourself. We had Eric in jockey, and obviously Keith. A lot of the 9-darter been mentioned. That actually, perhaps you wasn't the player who was favourite, if you like, to first achieve that feat. Did you? Was that ever? Were you a play on your mind of think, well, they're talking about other players?
No. If someone had done it before me, then it's impossible to be the first.
Yeah.
So obviously Nicky Verasco missed and Jockey Wilson missed in the World Pro 1 dart at the double. Yeah. And bear in mind, in them days, the dartboard had big wires and great big staples in them. They're very difficult, and you could easily hit a wire and a dart fall on the floor. Yeah. But it didn't worry me at all. I wasn't playing any of them. I was more bothered about beating Keith Deller.
That's it.
You know, Keith was playing at the top of the tree then, really good darts. Yeah. And how it worked out is when I got onto stage that day, you used to toss a coin for who went first as well. You didn't nearest the ball. You toss a coin and then you throw first in all the even legs, as it were.
Yeah.
And in that second set, I was a leg up. Yeah. And it was me to throw. Yeah. I went to the board and hit the 180. Yeah. And Keith, I looked at his dart, and one of them wobbled in the board, nearly fell out. Yeah. And there was chalk all over the place because Keith had chalk on his darts. It was like throwing through a minefield at the treble 20. And then the second throw was a 180 again. And I could almost hear Dave Lanning in the ITV commentary saying, we have a 9-dart game on, history may be here. Yeah. And then, of course, it was a 1-5-1, 1-4-1, sorry. And I'd rehearsed in my head for probably 10, 20 years previous which way I'd go. Yeah. And I knew it would be treble 15 because, sorry, I'm wrong again, treble 17. And then the next dart would be just up and to the right, treble 18, and then double 18.
And that was your way of thinking, all on the right-hand side of the board, the treble and the double 18 as close as they could possibly be to each other.
Well, many times before that, I'd sat with Barry Twomlow, who was with Unicorn forever, their roving ambassador, and we discussed it, which way to go. Yeah. And Barry had that same theory. He said, why move your eyesight from one side of the board to the other? Stay on the same side of the board and just... We did it because we thought we had a better chance. And no one can argue it was the wrong way to go because it was the first one to ever do it.
That's it. And of course, saying that, of course, in I think the 1983 World Championship, Jock had missed a double 12. And of course, he's there, and he's over there. But of course, you bang that double 18. And how the camera was, you couldn't quite see. But I think I can remember your hand going in the air before the double sort of landed. You knew, didn't you?
I did, because if you look at the video again, the treble 17 was right in the middle. The treble 18 was in the middle, but the dart stood up slightly. Yeah. And it left the V of the flight just showing me the double above it. Yeah. So I actually threw the dart. I know this sounds a bit sort of precise, but I threw the dart straight through the V in the flight. Yeah. And as it left my hand, my arms in the air, I knew it was in the board. Yeah. And Keith Deller was sort of waving everybody to be quiet.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And of course, being first on TV, then it gets shown on ITV. I mean, I hear there was a bit of a message, didn't you, from was it Dickie Davis from ITV?
Well, it was the minute I'd done it, the next thing I thought about was, look, beat Keith.
Yeah, you've got to get that done.
I didn't want to be remembered as the guy who had 2.5 minutes of luck. You know, I didn't want that. So I beat Keith, and when I'd finished, I got first of all, the Fulcrum Centre stood. The old people stood and applauded, which was quite emotional in a way.
Yeah.
And then I got a message saying there's a phone call from you at the bar area.
Yeah.
So I went over, and it was Dickie Davis from ITV, congratulating me with all the backroom staff that had watched it and applauded in the studio.
Yeah.
And then as he finished, he said, turn to your right and look on the bar. And there's an ice bucket with a bottle of champagne on one glass, which Cliff Lazarenko didn't like at all, by the way. But
I can imagine.
And of course, that's great. They're the things you remember, you know. And that day, my friend Gary Churnside from Australia, I said to him, order a couple of bottles of champagne for the hotel when we get back. And he ordered everything they had. That was a bit scary.
That's it. Yeah. But £102,000. I mean, not just the amount of money, but it obviously shows how difficult it was to achieve that £102,000 in 1984. That's an awful lot of money, isn't it? So I wouldn't imagine MFI were thinking, well, this isn't going to happen. But I hear they had their 2 pennies out of it, because effectively that was shown around the world a lot of times.
It was MFI. I did speak. Derek Hunt was the chairman of MFI then, and we became good friends. Yeah. And he said to me, "That's cost us £2,000. That was the insurance at that time. Now you can't get insurance on Round.Cane.
Right, okay.
But he got 1,500 cuttings. That was 1,500 different newspapers in Great Britain alone. So he was able to say to the shareholders, "Look, that was the best £2,000 we ever spent."
Yeah, yeah.
But what it did for darts, it brought us into line with other sports.
Yeah.
Because we were only playing for 5,000 and 3,000.
Yeah.
When someone picks 102,000 up, John McEnroe only won 90,000 for winning Wimbledon that year. Seve Ballesteros won 60,000 for winning the Open. Yeah. So to beat all them, it put darts at the top of the tree. So it did not just for me, it did it for the sport as well.
And as far as that tournament, how it went, I mean, it wasn't just the 102 for the 9 darty. You hit a 161 to take £1,000 for the highest checkout, and you went on and beat your friend Big Cliff in the final to take the 12,000, so £115,000. You've had a worse tournament, shall I say, John?
Well, just to prove I was a dart player, I went straight from there on a week's tour of Wales. And 6 days later, someone said, what was it like winning all that money? I said, just a second, I got all the checks out of my pocket and held them up. So the interest I'd already lost 5 or 6 days just proved I'm a dart player.
Yeah, that's it. And effectively, after that, I mean, you're obviously a world champion. You'd already been a world champion. But did this sort of put you to a different level, sort of people recognising you in the streets? How many times it was played over the years?
It did, and a lot of people said things. I mean, at that time I was driving a Lotus Esprit car. And it was only a week later I pulled into a petrol station in Surrey. Yeah. And this guy said, "Hey, John, I saw that on TV. I'll shake your hand." He shook my hand and he said, "See, it's not taking you long time to spend your money."
No.
I said, "It's not in the bank yet. The check's in my pocket."
Yeah, you still got that. I mean, would you say, had it been coming, had you, on the practice board, had you hit a 9 darter or not?
When I did that one, I refused for years and years to admit to ever doing another one. I thought that's the pinnacle, leave it at that.
Yes, yeah.
I've done quite a few. Yeah. But I never actually, I mean, the best one I've ever done since then, I was in Tenerife practising. I call it training camp when I go out there. Yeah. And 3 old ladies stood behind me from Cheshire. Yeah. I'll never forget. And they said, "Hey, John, you're great with raising money for whatever." And I did a 9-dart game there and then.
Really?
And I said, "Did you see that?" And they went, "Big scores." And they hadn't got a clue what I'd done.
What he just done.
Not got a clue.
Yeah. I hear there's quite an interesting national paper headline about what they called you after, John.
And that was one of the national Sundays. One of the Sunday nationals said, "Wobbly belly low beats them all," and that referring to Ballesteros and John McEnroe. Yeah. And the nice thing, I met Seve Ballesteros a few years later, and he actually shook my hand and he'd watched it, which was nice. Yeah. I've never met McEnroe,
No.
That's not.
Obviously, we're sat here in Unicorn, which has been your sponsor for many, many years. You don't still have the Unicorn darts, do you?
I don't have the exact Unicorn darts, because I put them into the local hospice for their charity in 1991, I think it was, which fetched £500, which we're very pleased about. Yeah. But these are exactly the same model of dart, what I'm holding in my hand now, except the tungsten titanium instead of tungsten. Yeah. They're exact same model. Yeah. We've messed around and gone up a weight and down a weight, but back to the ones that did it, which just prove that they're good darts.
Yeah. here's a question: would you, 3 times world champion, would you swap that forget take the prize money? Would you swap that 9 dart for a 4th world championship?
It's an hard one to actually say, because it's not a position I'm going to be in. I have lost in the final 5 times anyway. So the 3 I did win were in 3 separate decades.
Yeah.
So that alone is a record at that time.
Yeah.
And to do the 9 dart game, to be the first to do it,
yeah,
it's got of little significance now in some of the events, really. But to be the first one, I spoke to Martin Brundle, the racing driver, and he said in motor racing, F1, pole position is bigger than sometimes winning the actual race.
Yeah.
Because that is the ultimate. That's the fastest lap, and you've beaten the other field to get on the grid, number 1.
Yeah.
And so I thought about it, and would I swap it? I don't know.
No.
Maybe for 2 world championships.
Yeah, another 2. Do you still get obviously we're talking about it today, but do people still talk to you about come up in the street and mention it more so than maybe those world championships?
Well, thanks to YouTube, even the youngsters do now.
Yeah.
You have to realise that time moves on, and the older people still support me, and their kids do, but the new generation are a little bit left behind with the older guys.
Yeah.
But thanks to YouTube, which I think that 9 dart game's close on 1 million hits, youngsters are watching it all the time. I mean, that's the place to be, and some of those, they're different. Okay, the 9 darts game's the same, but they put their own editing words to it, and makes it quite interesting. Yeah,
that's it. And to date, there's been 38 since, in 2 in the World Grand Prix, sort of as we speak. You're the only one who decided to go treble 15, treble 18, double 18 on the 141.
That's right, and I still think if I was on TV and doing it today, I'd still go that way.
Yeah.
Because to me, it makes sense to stay on one side of the board and just raise the eyesight slightly to do it. But I can't criticise anybody else that does it a different way.
No.
Someone said last night double start, double finish is more difficult than a treble start. But I say to them, well, doubles are bigger than trebles.
Yeah.
So if you had to start a game of 501 on treble, there'd be a lot of people miss.
Well, thank you very much, John. Thanks for joining us there. That was Tungsten Tales in association with Unicorn Darts, keeping you at the sharp end of world darts. Thanks for joining us.